The manager's voice sliced through the quiet break room like a cold blade. "Late again, Aaron?" He didn't shout. He didn't have to. His tone was the kind that told everyone else to look busy. Aaron froze halfway through tying his apron. The clock behind him blinked 8:07 a.m. Sorry, sir," he muttered. Jason Reed, the branch manager of Brookvale Hardware, sighed loudly enough for everyone to hear. "Sorry doesn't keep customers waiting, does it? You think this store runs on apologies?" Aaron's fingers tightened around the knot of his apron, but he said nothing. "You're 25. You've been here a year. And still, you show up dragging your feet every other day. You want to know what that makes you." The air thickened. Even the hum of the vending machine seemed to hold its breath. Jason stepped closer. Lazy. The word hit like a slap that left no mark, only silence. But what Jason didn't know was that Aaron hadn't slept in 36 hours, and that, a few hours earlier, he'd been risking his life for a stranger.
Before we continue, remember, if you've ever been judged without the full story, this one's for you. Stay till the end, and if you believe every person deserves to be seen before being labeled, make sure to subscribe, like, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Now back to the story.
Aaron swallowed hard, keeping his tone even. "I understand, sir." Jason rolled his eyes. "Do you?" "Because I'm running out of patience, Coleman. If you can't handle showing up on time, maybe you don't deserve the hours." A few co-workers looked away. Everyone knew Aaron didn't fight back. He just worked, quietly, efficiently, like someone who'd learned that silence was safer than explanation. He nodded once, tied his apron fully, and went to the back. Jason shook his head, muttering under his breath, "Kids these days, no work ethic." The door swung shut behind Aaron. But Jason's words stayed in the air like dust, thick, visible, choking. The morning dragged. Shelves needed restocking. Customers lined up with spring orders. The air smelled of paint and pine wood. Aaron moved through it all like a shadow, stacking, sorting, smiling faintly when spoken to. He never complained, never wasted motion. Around noon, when the sun cut to the windows and spilled across aisle 5, he felt the exhaustion catch up. His eyes burned. His hands trembled as he lifted a box of nails. Marcus, the assistant manager, noticed. "Hey, man, you good?" Aaron nodded. "Yeah, just tired." Jason, overhearing, scoffed. "Tired? You barely started your shift. Try working harder before you start talking about tired." Aaron kept his head down. "Yes, sir." But Marcus frowned. He'd seen the way Aaron's shirt sleeves sometimes had fresh scrapes, the way his phone buzzed late in the day with messages he never answered aloud, the way he always took the closing shift, even when he wasn't scheduled. Something didn't add up. That evening, long after the last customer left, Jason made one more jab. "Lock up quick tonight, Coleman. Maybe you'll get a full night's sleep and be on time for once." Aaron gave a small smile, one that said, "I've heard worse." When the lights dimmed and the last car left the lot, Aaron lingered. He wiped down the counters, res-stacked the paint cans, checked the locks twice. Then, finally, at 10:47 p.m., he clocked out. Outside, the air was thick with humidity. A storm was coming. He adjusted his jacket and started the long walk home. A mile in, thunder cracked overhead. He passed the darkened library, the shuttered bakery, the empty bus stop. Then he heard it, a crash, screeching tires, a voice screaming for help. Aaron ran. At the corner of 9th and Walnut, a car had flipped into a ditch. Smoke curled from under the hood. A man lay halfway out of the driver's side window, groaning. Aaron jumped down into the ditch, slipping on the mud. "Hey, you hear me?" he called. The man blinked weakly. My leg stuck." Aaron tried the door handle. Jammed. He braced his shoulder against the frame, grunting as metal groaned. Come on." A spark snapped under the hood. The smell of gasoline filled the air. Aaron didn't think. He reached through the shattered glass, cutting his forearm, and pulled the man free. The two of them rolled onto the wet grass just as the car erupted in a burst of flame. For a moment, neither of them moved. Rain began to fall. First a drizzle, then a downpour. The man turned to Aaron, trembling. You saved me. Aaron shook his head. Just glad you're okay. He stood, limping slightly, and pulled out his phone to call for help. By the time paramedics arrived, Aaron was gone. He'd disappeared into the rain, blood soaking through his sleeve, heading back toward his small apartment on the south side of town. He didn't even stay for questions. Didn't want his name in a report. He just wanted sleep. But there would be none, because an hour later, he'd be back on his feet, heading to the nursing home across the street from his apartment, where his mother waited for her nightly visit. It was nearly 1 a.m. when he walked in, still damp, still shaking from adrenaline. The nurse looked up. Aaron, it's late. He smiled faintly. She can't sleep without me reading. He went into room 214. His mother, fragile and small under a mountain of white blankets, smiled when she saw him. You work too much, baby. He kissed her forehead. I know, Mom. Just keeping busy. She touched his arm. You smell like smoke. He chuckled softly. Funny story about that. She smiled weakly. You're still my hero. He didn't answer, just opened her favorite book and began to read until her eyes closed. When he finally stumbled home, dawn was bleeding into the horizon. He lay down for less than 30 minutes before his alarm went off again. And at 8:07 a.m., he was late. Again. The next morning, the world moved too fast for Aaron to keep up. The bell of the store door chimed endlessly. Customers' voices overlapped, and the rhythmic beep of the scanners filled the aisles. To everyone else, it was just another Tuesday. To Aaron, it was a marathon he had started miles behind. Jason, meanwhile, walked the floor with his clipboard, his daily ritual of power. He liked things clean, ordered, predictable, and nothing tested that more than an employee who looked tired. Around mid-morning, he spotted Aaron near aisle 12, struggling to lift a box of tiles onto the shelf. Jason frowned, walking over. Coleman, how many times do I have to tell you? Customers don't want to see workers dragging themselves around like zombies. Aaron caught his breath. I'm just trying. Jason interrupted. No, you're failing. A few customers turned. Their eyes flicked between them. The tension thickened. Aaron lowered the box gently, forcing calm into his tone. I'll pick up the pay, sir. Jason smirked. You'll do more than that. You'll stay after your shift tonight. We're short on cleanup staff. Marcus, who had been scanning nearby inventory, straightened up. Jason, he's been pulling extra shifts already. Maybe rotate someone else in. Jason turned, his voice suddenly sharp. Did I ask for your input, Marcus? Marcus looked away, jaw tight. No, sir. Jason faced Aaron again. 5 o'clock sharp. Don't even think about leaving early. Aaron nodded slowly. Understood. As Jason walked off, Marcus muttered under his breath, Man, I swear that guy's got a chip on his shoulder. Aaron forced a small smile. It's fine. He just doesn't know. Marcus frowned. Know what? Aaron hesitated, then shook his head. Doesn't matter. But it did matter. More than he wanted to admit. Hours passed. The store buzzed. Orders came in. Shipments left. By late afternoon, the sky outside had turned gray, the kind of heavy gray that made fluorescent light feel like a punishment. Jason's voice carried again from the register. Coleman, you finished that restock yet? Aaron looked up from the bottom shelf. Almost, sir. Almost doesn't get the job done, Jason said, loud enough for the customers in line to hear. Aaron's hand still on the box. His ears burned. He exhaled slowly, resisting the urge to answer. One of the customers, a woman in her 60s, frowned at Jason. Excuse me, young man, he's doing just fine. No need to talk to him like that. Jason turned to her, smiled tight. Ma'am, I appreciate your concern, but this is an employee matter. The woman narrowed her eyes. Well, maybe you should appreciate your employees, too. Jason's smile faltered. He turned back toward his office without another word. Aaron gave the woman a grateful nod. Thank you. She patted his shoulder. Don't thank me, son. Just keep your head up. He smiled faintly. Yes, ma'am. When closing time came, most of the staff left in pairs, joking about dinner or payday. Aaron stayed behind, sweeping aisles, scrubbing paint off the counters, bagging up trash. Jason emerged from his office around 7:40 p.m., briefcase in hand. You can lock up when you're done, he said flatly. Yes, sir. Jason paused, glancing at Aaron's hunched shoulders. You know, I don't get it. You've got potential. You're smart, detail-oriented. But you've got no drive. None. You think hard work's optional. Aaron didn't look up. I think sometimes hard work looks different depending on where you're standing. Jason frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Aaron forced a smile. Nothing, sir. Jason exhaled sharply. You sound like a man who always has excuses. You're young, healthy. What could possibly be so hard about showing up? Aaron looked at the floor, voice low. You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Jason snorted. Try me. Aaron hesitated. His mind flashed with images. His mother's frail hands clutching his sleeve. The burning car. The child's terrified face. The trembling man he'd carried to safety. But he said nothing. See, Jason said, smirking. Excuses. Aaron didn't answer. Just nodded once and continued mopping. Jason left, the door slamming shut behind him. That night, at 11:03 p.m., the city erupted again, not with sirens this time, but thunder, a storm that tore across rooftops and flooded streets. While most people were asleep, Aaron was out again, not for thrill, not for duty, for someone else. He'd gotten a call from the nurse at the nursing home. The generator had failed. His mother's machine was flickering. They needed help. The city streets were underwater by the time he arrived. He waded through waist-deep water to reach the back entrance, his flashlight cutting through the rain. Inside, the power was out. The hallway smelled of damp carpet and fear. Nurses ran back and forth with candles and oxygen tanks. Aaron didn't hesitate. He moved through the darkness until he found his mother's room. She was awake. Barely. You came, she whispered. Of course, he said softly. He checked the battery connections, his hands shaking. He'd worked on enough equipment at the store to know how to improvise. He used his phone's portable charger to stabilize the monitor until the backup generator kicked in. When it finally beeped back to life, the nurse's eyes filled with tears. You saved her. Aaron smiled weakly. She saved me first. He stayed by her side until morning. And at 8:10 a.m., he was late. Again. Jason was waiting at the door, arms crossed. Coleman, he said sharply, do you enjoy disrespecting my schedule? Aaron's eyes were bloodshot. His clothes were damp. His shoes squelched. I had to. Had to what? Oversleep? Stay up playing video games? You got more excuses and hours on your timesheet. Marcus stepped in quickly. Jason, take it easy. Jason cut him off. No, I'm done taking it easy. I've been patient. I've given him warnings. At this point, he's either too lazy or too stupid to care. Aaron flinched, just barely. Then, for the first time, his voice carried weight. You don't know me. Jason laughed. I don't need to know you. I just see what you show me. Aaron looked him dead in the eye. Then maybe you need to start looking harder. The words hit Jason like a mirror he didn't expect to face. For a long second, no one spoke. Marcus exhaled slowly. Come on, man. Go cool off. Jason turned on his heel, muttering under his breath. But something in his expression had shifted. Not anger this time. Confusion. Because for the first time, he'd seen something in Aaron's eyes that wasn't submission. It was truth. The store moved on, but the air inside the store felt heavy, like thunder had gotten trapped between the aisles and refused to leave. Aaron kept working. He rotated stock on aisle 7, scanned damaged returns in the back, and quietly fixed a bent hinge on the garden door so it wouldn't squeal every time someone walked through. He didn't talk. He didn't sigh. He just moved. Around noon, a little boy with a superhero backpack tugged his mother's sleeve near the registers. Mom, that's him, he whispered, pointing down the aisle. That's the man. Jason looked up from his clipboard. Can I help you, ma'am? The woman's eyes were still red from a night without sleep. She glanced at the manager, then at Aaron, then back again, as if trying to decide whether gratitude was safe in public. She stepped forward. "We were told a man who pulled my son from a car last night worked here. He had a cut on his arm and left before we could thank him." Her voice trembled. Is he here?" Jason's pen hovered over the page. He turned slowly toward Aaron, who stood motionless at the end of the aisle, a box of screws in his hands and a bandage half hidden under his sleeve. Silence changed shape. It wasn't empty now. It was full of a question that had waited for too long. Aaron set the box down and approached, not in a rush, not shy, just present. The boy stared up at him. "You came back," he said, like they had made a promise. Aaron knelt so their eyes could meet. "How's your leg?" he asked gently. The boy smiled. Not even a scratch. His mother covered her mouth. Tears broke. "Thank you," she said, the words falling out in a rush. "Thank you for seeing us when nobody else did." Jason didn't move. Each word made the room smaller. Marcus appeared near the service desk, eyes darting between the manager and the man he'd quietly respected for months. "Jason," he said quietly, "maybe we should." But the mother had already reached for Aaron's hand. "You left before we could get your name. The firefighters said you wouldn't talk to them. They said you just disappeared." Aaron shook his head. "You had a child to hold. That's the only name that mattered." She laughed through another tear. "We brought something." She pulled a folded drawing from her purse. A crayon car. A stick figure man with a big smile and a blue cape. The word hero in shaky letters. The boy pressed it into Aaron's hands. "For you." Aaron looked at it for a long second, like he was memorizing a moment no one could take. "I'll keep it," he said. Jason found his voice. "You were late because of this?" he asked, softer than he'd sounded in months. Aaron didn't answer. The mother turned. "He was late because he saved my child's life. And he has nothing to prove to you." Jason swallowed. The clipboard in his hand felt ridiculous. The automatic doors opened with their usual sigh. A woman in scrubs hurried in, raincoat draped over her arm, hair still damp from a morning too early for comfort. She scanned the store and spotted Aaron. "Aaron," she called, relief pouring through his name. "I came on my break. The generator stabilized after you left. Your mom slept through the storm. She saw the bandage, and you still went to work." Jason's jaw tightened. A kind of quiet panic rose behind his calm. He had been loud when he felt certain. Now, certainty had left the building, and it took his volume with it. Marcus stepped beside him. "You hearing this?" Jason's eyes never left Aaron. "I'm hearing every word." The nurse reached for Aaron's wrist. "You need stitches. At least butterfly strips that aren't hardware store tape." She turned pointedly toward the manager's office, as if daring the store itself to object. "Can he take 15 minutes without losing his job?" Jason opened his mouth, closed it. "Yes," he said finally. "Yes, of course." Aaron started to refuse, habit, but Marcus had already taken the scanner from his hand. "Go," he said. "I've got this." They moved toward the break room. The small group left behind, 2 customers, one boy with a hero on paper, a manager without a script, stood inside a silence that was no longer awkward. It was instructive. Jason looked smaller. He stared at the door Aaron had just walked through, at the faint smear of grease on the handle that he used to scold as sloppy, at the display he'd accused Aaron of stocking too slowly, the one that never once fell over when kids tugged at it. He walked to aisle 12 and touched the edge of the tile shelf where Aaron had been scolded for moving too slow. The shelf was level, the labels aligned, the boxes faced forward like soldiers. The kind of work that takes time, but saves everyone else's. The radio at his hip crackled. "Customer assist, aisle 3. He didn't answer. He was busy seeing. The nurse emerged 15 minutes later with Aaron, the white of a clean bandage visible where a shirt sleeve had rolled back. She squeezed his shoulder, then left like a weather pattern, here, then gone, leaving the air clearer. The mother hugged him one more time. The boy saluted, because that's what heroes get when your little ingratitude feels like a ceremony. They left. The store exhaled. Jason approached. He didn't raise his voice. He raised the truth. "I called you lazy," he said, low enough that only the four of them could hear. "I said you had no drive. I said you didn't care." His throat worked. "I was wrong." Aaron shook his head once. "It's okay." "It isn't," Jason said. "It isn't okay." He looked at Marcus. "I need the schedule." Marcus handed it to him without a word. Jason took a pen and crossed out something that had been written there for months. "No more closing shifts you didn't sign up for," he said to Aaron. "No more staying late without pay. We're adjusting hours. And I'm adding emergency leave to your file. Retroactive." Aaron opened his mouth. "You don't have to do." "I do," Jason said. "Because leadership is what you do after you find out the truth." He turned to the service desk phone. Dialed. "Corporate? This is Reed at Brookvale. I need to update a personnel file and submit a commendation." Marcus leaned back, blinking hard like something lodged behind his "I had finally been rinsed clean." About time. The rest of the day moved differently. Not slower. Truer. Customers came and went. Boxes were lifted and lowered. Doors opened and closed. The ordinary got its pulse back. Late afternoon, the fire captain walked in. He was tall and older than the uniform looked, with the kind of posture that comes from carrying people, not rank. He shook Aaron's hand in front of the registers without ceremony and slid a business card into his palm. "If you ever want to do this kind of work," he said, "call me." Jason watched the handshake. He had hired and fired dozens of people in his career. But for the first time, he wondered what it would mean to be the kind of manager who noticed the people he hired. He followed the captain outside and caught him just before the doors hissed shut. "Captain," he said, awkward, earnest. "Is it true?" The captain didn't let him finish. He went in twice. He said, "Smoke like black paint." He didn't hesitate. He studied the manager's eyes. "The question isn't whether it's true. It's what you'll do with it." The doors closed, and Jason stood in his own reflection, seeing someone he didn't like. He went back inside, past the counter where he'd once delivered reprimands like receipts, and took a different path, one that ended beside a young man straightening a shelf like he was adjusting a compass. "Dinner," Jason said, holding out a small white envelope. "For your mother. On me." Aaron stared at it. "I can't." "You saved a child," Jason said. "Let me feed the woman who raised the person who did that." Aaron looked down at the envelope. It wasn't money. It was dignity wrapped in paper. "Thank you," he said. Jason nodded. "Thank you for showing me what work really looks like." The intercom chimed and paged Jason to the office for a call from corporate HR. Marcus raised his chin in Aaron's direction and mouthed, "You good?" Aaron gave a tiny shrug that somehow meant yes. When Jason returned, he carried more than a policy update. He carried a plan. He printed a flyer, set on the corkboard by the break room door, and pinned it with a thumbtack that didn't bend. Emergency Support Program. Immediate leave for family and community crisis. Anonymous Hero Commendation. Nominations open. Overtime approval. Required before extra hours. Below it, in his own handwriting, "We will be a place that sees the whole person." He stood there with the pen between his fingers, thinking of all the times he had chosen speed over seeing, results over relationship, labels over listening. Then he pressed the pen in all the way. That evening, just after close, the lights hummed into their softer state. The world quieted. The way a stage goes still after applause when the actors remain for a breath that says, "Remember this." Jason walked to the center of the floor. "Team," he said, not loud but gathered, "I owe someone a public apology." Employees appeared from aisles and back rooms, drawn by the tone more than the words. Marcus leaned against the paint shaker. Two cashiers exchanged glances. In the doorway, the janitor paused, a trash bag in one hand, and the other near his heart like he'd forgotten where to put it. Jason faced Aaron. He didn't look away. "I judge you because I only counted what I could see between 8 and 5, he said, voice steady. "I forgot that a person's day doesn't start when my door's open. It starts when their people need them. And sometimes it doesn't end at all." He swallowed. "You're not late. You've been leading. in places that don't give you a name tag for it. No one clapped, not because it wasn't worthy, but because applause is loud, and this moment needed quiet. Aaron broke it with the smallest smile. I still have to finish aisle 12, he said, because humility often arrives disguised as the next task. We'll do it together, Jason said. They did. 2 hands on the same shelf. 2 lives recalibrating on the same line. When they were done, the shelf didn't look different. The room did. Marcus killed the main lights. The door beeped twice. Keys turned. Outside, the night was clean. The storm had used up its anger and left everything washed. Aaron tucked the drawing from the boy into his backpack, so the corners wouldn't bend. He slid the envelope for his mother into his pocket like a promise. Jason stood in the doorway a moment longer than necessary. Then he stepped out and locked up, metal catching the last of the light, like a period at the end of a long sentence. As they parted ways, he said the line that would follow him into every hiring meeting, every staff review, every moment he was tempted to choose easy over honest. He didn't raise his voice, Jason murmured, almost to himself, watching Aaron walk into the soft dark. He raised the truth. The world answered with the softest amen. A streetlight flickering to steady, a tire whispering across wet pavement, a door closing gently somewhere a block away. If you've ever felt unseen until your hardest work had no audience, hear this. Your value isn't waiting for a witness. But sometimes, when truth finally stands beside you, the room remembers how to see.
If the story moved you, share this story with someone who's ever been judged before being known. Subscribe to Black Justice for more stories where humanity, humility, and truth always rise. Because every voice deserves to be heard.